Some say I'm really good at breakups. I am, indeed, seasoned at them. Fortunately, like Taylor Swift, I'm pretty good at shaking off my heartbreak after letting another love of my life get away. Typically, this consists of planning an extreme adventure intended to catapult me to the next spiritual domain, or mend my broken heart, or at least let everyone know that I'm fine. I'm not sad. Look at what cool shit I'm up to. After boyfriend number 1, it was a cross-country move from Boston to LA. For boyfriend number 2, I went to Africa and hiked to the top of Mount Kilimanjaro. Boyfriend number 3, I sought refuge in the healing powers of ayahuasca deep in the Costa Rican jungle. And earlier this year, when I found myself mid-breakup with number 4, I knew I needed another soul-cleansing experience. So that's how I found myself driving through the San Jacinto Mountains on a Wednesday morning in April, heading to the desert to attend a Vipassana meditation retreat. A Vipassana meditation retreat is a 10-day silent retreat where you're essentially living like a monk or a nun. You're expected to meditate more than 10 hours a day, with only a few breaks in between for meals and other necessities, like showering and laundry. You're up at 4 a.m. before the sun and lights out at 10 p.m. While you're there, you agree to adhere to noble silence. This means not only refraining from speaking, but any form of communication with others. No smiles, no head nods, gestures, nada. And you take a vow to follow some simple rules, including promising not to leave until it's over, no matter how much it sucks. Once I arrived, I handed in all my digital devices, car keys, reading and writing materials, and spoke my last words for the next 240 hours. Soon after, we were orderly placed in rows in the meditation hall, each with our own basic setup that would become our space for the retreat. The teachers reviewed the rules and asked us to agree. No killing. Yeah. Easy, hadn't even crossed my mind. Refrain from stealing. Not a klepto, check. Don't tell lies. Well, with the whole not talking thing, I figured this was baked in. And abstain from intoxicants. As there were none that I could find, A-okay. And finally, refrain from sexual activity. Looking around the meditation hall, the women were on one side with the men on the other half, each with separate entrances and assigned teachers. Apparently, other than this, women and men are kept completely separate from each other throughout the entire retreat. I think they must be especially serious about this rule, I thought. At 4 a.m. the next morning, we were roused by the sound of the gong, and like a good little student, I fumbled out of bed and made my way to the meditation hall for our first session of the day. I meticulously arranged my props to create the most conducive area that will serve as my seat for the many, many hours of meditation ahead of me. Proud of my work, I settled in and struck my best serious meditator pose. I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, and spent the next 2 hours attempting to simply pay attention to the sensations at the base of my nostrils. And you know what? It was awful. Every 5 minutes felt like an eternity, and my thoughts were a steady stream of nonsense that I could not tame, and I couldn't get comfortable in what the actual hell? How am I going to survive today, let alone 10? Eventually, the 2 hours were over, and I made my way to the dining hall. I sat down in my assigned seat and ate my breakfast while trying hard not to look at anyone, which was difficult as I was sitting directly across from another human. As I ate in silence, I again questioned what I got myself into. Am I going to be one of those weak souls they warned about that bows out before the end? I'd already seen 2 people disappear, even though the rules were very clear. Over the next few days, as I started to settle into the routine, I shifted between a myriad of emotions: boredom, restlessness, elation, calmness, frustration, and sorrow, to name a few. During each meditation session, our instruction was to simply notice the breath without changing anything. By the third day, I was both fed up with the repetitive instruction and a little proud of myself that I was starting to get the hang of things, thinking I may, in fact, survive this. So when our teacher announced that the real work starts tomorrow, I got furious. What have we been doing this whole time? Why are you changing things now? I don't want things to get harder, my inner brat exclaimed. Apparently, the first 3 days were a warm-up, and things were about to get even more challenging, if that was possible. I woke up on day 4 with trepidation, but mentally recommitted to the journey. It was around this time when people started getting pretty weird. When you are given almost no outside stimuli and forced to be with only your own mind for days on end, you become pretty desperate for a break in the insidiousness and monotony of your own thoughts. I found myself making friends with a group of fire ants. They spent their days carrying feathers 10 times their size. Where are they going? What are the feathers for? Will they make it? I became invested in their plight, following them around and mentally cheering them on as if they were my kids' soccer team. Others found their own entertainment. One girl spent her time walking backwards along the path we used for exercise. Another used a stick to commune with herself by writing words in the sand. Most of us could be found staring intently at the undisturbed nature around us, as if we were in the middle of a National Geographic documentary. One day, a chipmunk spent our lunch break giving us a show by running around the patio and doing his little chipmunk thing. That was the best day. I took to assigning everyone nicknames, since I didn't know anything about them except what I could gather from their appearance or behavior. There was McBurps-a-lot, who sat behind me in the hall and, well, burped a lot. And Brunch Lady, who always dressed like she was meeting friends for Sunday Fun Day. Along with Heavy Breather, Carb Loader, Skater Chick, and Chi-Town. She often wore a Portillo's t-shirt. And I'll never forget Little Miss Unaware, who became my arch nemesis, despite my many attempts at nun-like compassion. She was in her own world with so little awareness of her surroundings, it was almost comical. Always late for sessions, strangely loud even without talking. Paid no attention to the dress code, you get the vibe. I started blaming every little annoyance on her. Someone in the shower at the wrong time, her. Misplaced my toothpaste, she took it. Unflushed poop left in the toilet, definitely her fault. The highlight of the day was always the evening talk, where our teacher would regale us with stories about the Buddha and teach us how to live like little monks, adding in his own quirky brand of humor. His voice was like ASMR to our auditory-deprived ears, and we lapped it up like drooling dogs begging for more. Sometimes I didn't even catch the joke, or maybe he didn't tell one, but would laugh obnoxiously anyway, just to hear my mouth make sounds. One morning, as I got situated to begin a group meditation, I caught eyes with a handsome man as he walked into the hall. It was a brief moment, but my heart skipped a beat. He was probably 10 years my junior, with youthful, buoyant skin, a gorgeous mane of hair, and piercing blue eyes. I decided he would be my secret boyfriend for the remainder of the retreat. Which was really just permission for me to gaze dreamily at him every chance I got. The sound of the gong redirected my attention back to our purpose. I closed my eyes and settled in for the sit. Before long, intrusive thoughts about my secret boyfriend began to fill my head. Very sexy thoughts. Not completely unwanted, but terribly inappropriate. I tried to refocus on my breath over and over again, but salacious images came roaring back with a vengeance. Before I knew it, my entire body was vibrating on fire. It was one of the shortest and most excruciating hours of all. I sprung out of the hall and headed to my room to relieve myself a bit. But when I got there, I remembered the last rule: no sexual activity. Does solo play count, I wondered? And quickly decided, yes, that is not nun-like behavior. I groaned and began pacing my room, taking deep breaths and contemplating taking a cold shower. Then I remembered my secret skill. When I was a kid, I discovered an interesting bodily quirk. A certain type of sit-up can give me spontaneous orgasms. Like, I actually can't control it, which sounds amazing, right? But they even have a name for it now. It's called a orgasm. But as a shy kid in gym class figuring this out for the first time, it was mortifying. But back in my room, I thought, they never said anything about exercise. I'll just work on my abs a bit. Gotta get the core. Help with all that sitting, am I right? No? Some guilt did creep in as I considered I had bent the rules. What would the monks think? I promised to keep my eyes on my side of the meditation hall from now on. So long, secret boyfriend. The main practice of Vipassana meditation is to see things how they are, as a means to developing balance or equanimity toward all experiences: the good, the bad, the insufferable. In action, this meant sitting in complete stillness while scanning the body for sensations and practicing allowing what comes up without trying to change it. Itch on your nose? Breathe through it. Foot fall asleep? Allow it to be. Within days, I found myself more comfortable experiencing all kinds of pain: the physical, the emotional, the mental, with a relative ease. My ability for self-compassion rose tenfold, and each sit felt like its own little therapy session. Sometimes I'd cry or fume, get lost in thought, or transcend into other consciousness. For the first time, I started to feel safe in my own skin and held in reverence by something beyond my capacity to understand. And this felt like a superpower. For days, I felt giddy with energy, excited about everything, feeling like I could conquer anything. Did I just find the secret to life? It felt like freedom, and I had nothing but gratitude, even for the breakup. But like all things, the feeling dissipated, and I started growing restless, counting down the days, hours, minutes, until we could speak again. I wanted to crawl out of my skin or run away or shout expletives at everyone. Miraculously, I did nothing. The morning of the final full day, our teacher announced the end of noble silence. He described it as a shock absorber, so that we weren't sent off premises as awkward creatures entering a very loud and stimulating world. Most of us sprinted out of the hall and immediately created a cacophony of strange and very loud sounds. As we started to speak, I understood what my teacher meant. Instead of fully formed sentences, many of us resorted to a type of babbling that I can only describe as listening to someone trying to speak while having a stroke. Imagine toddlers trying to talk to each other, and you get the idea. I began to learn the real names of my newfound friends. Brunch Lady, Audrey. McBurps a lot, Melissa. Little Miss Unaware, I don't know, who cares? That evening, we were given permission to collect our digital devices. as the Zoomers ran full speed ahead, I found myself pausing, noting that I didn't feel quite ready to reconnect with the outside world. How about that? Maybe I'll get a dumb phone and go off grid. Spoiler alert, I haven't. Before departing the next morning, I reflected on the experience and insights I had made. For one, humans make a lot of weird bodily sounds. And I don't actually require much to meet my needs. Followed by, if they made exceptions to the no sex thing, I might make for a fine Buddhist nun one day. And finally, the biggest gift of all, I'd begun to consider that the love of my life may actually be me. But just in case, I better start brainstorming my next great adventure for after boyfriend number 5.
All right, put your hands together for VAMP first-timer Stephanie Hansen.